Thank you all for being here. It's a great pleasure for me to speak to you. My name is Marcel Siegler. I'm a philosopher doing existentialism, social philosophy, philosophy of technology, and I'm doing transformation research as well. Today I want to talk about the purpose between humanity and artificiality that space movies have, or like that they are bestowed with, say. I want to explore this complex situation between humanity and artificiality, like artificiality, like the fact of being artificial. And I also want to explore the implications of the peculiar type of purpose that space movies follow, whatever that means. But I don't think I have to really explain what a space movie is, but help you become one. But anyway, I just try to be precise about this. So space movies are superhuman soldiers. They have the best weapons, armor, and gear of the Imperium. They are the shield and sword of the Emperor of Mankind. They have between 19 and 22 organs. They are physically trained, genetically enhanced, rigorously trained as well, and psychologically indoctrinated. They are organized in legions, have their different battle breeds, and all stuff. Space marine life contains of 4 things: train, pray, fight, and die for the Emperor. If you're really lucky, you become a dreadnought, but unfortunately, you should have good. So their purpose, basically, from what we get from the lore and from all of how they were trained, is to defend the Imperium of Man from the Xenos, the Heretic, and the Demon. I was wondering how space marines end up with this terrible purpose, and what are the exact implications of this. Because they sort of move between humanity, or being human, and being artificial in a way. Unlike primates, Ascaris and Custodes are not transhumans. They are born as human kids, human children. What that means, according to Battle Captain Jean-Paul Sartre, is that they are born without the innate purpose, like all of us. We're born, there's no purpose to us. Sartre says in Being and Nothingness that freedom is existence, and existence precedes essence. So it precedes whatever we can claim to be in a way. Yeah. So we're first free, and then we make ourselves into something that we then can claim to be. Freedom arises immediately as concrete and cannot be distinguished from its choice, that is, from the person. So our freedom is our choice, and we are condemned to be free because we are condemned to act and choose in a world that we didn't choose to be in. Sartre calls this the ontological freedom of human beings. And this ontological freedom is basically a dialectical tension between facticity and self-consciousness. So facticity is what we are born with, our bodies, our genes, when we are born into, if we are born like working class children, or if we are born in academic households, and also our self-consciousness of this, like our relation to ourselves. And this ontological freedom is foundational for recognizing one's agency, one's autonomy, and one's subjectivity. It is thus also foundational, like ontological freedom, for finding or constituting and recognizing something like an internal purpose, something like meaning. To be able, like being human means to be able. Here's again doing something. Or maybe we can we just mute that this is not making noise. Okay, can you online still hear me now?
That should work.
That should work. I hope so. Okay, yeah. So being human means that we are able to have an internal purpose, basically. For basically this internal purpose and their subjectivity, they are crucial because they allow them to recognize and understand orders, to assess planned situations, and to have a sense of duty. Basically. Unlike machines, basically as humans, or what makes the part of what makes them human, allows them to have moral autonomy, not only operative autonomy, which means having a set goal and then deciding how to, which means to employ towards that goal. They not only have the strategic autonomy, which means to have a very broad kind of a broad order to do something, and then decide which means to employ and which ends to follow towards the higher end. They also have moral autonomy, which machines don't have, which means they are able to recognize and to also know what's good or right. It doesn't necessarily what's ethically, what's like what would be morally right, something. Moral autonomy means they know that there are things that are right and wrong because they have a sense of self and a sense of being part of like a larger organization, factory chapter, whatever. Yeah. But also, specimens also sacrifice part of their humanity in becoming a specimen. They get rid of their fear, they have no sex drive, they are supposed to obey orders without question, and they have no other real interest than to pray, fight, to train, pray, fight, and die. Or maybe it's not their interest to die, but if they would, I think the best would be to die eventually, or especially. Through training, enhancement, and psychological alteration, external purpose is basically given to them. It's inscribed within their existence or their life. They become living, thinking weapons, instruments of destruction to be wielded by the Emperor of America. According to Martin Heidegger of the SW Forum, there are various ways in which equipment or technology can be given to, or is given to us. I will not talk about Marcel. I think we did this yesterday. According to Heidegger, equipment such as hammers, bolters, rhinos, machines, basically everything can be given to us ready to hand or present to hand. When it's given to us ready to hand, it means that it allows us to do whatever we intend to do without much disturbance, basically. But when technology fails, when equipment fails, when a bolter jams, or when a rhino doesn't want to, or when a land raider doesn't want to drive forward, basically, we would say that then the equipment becomes present to hand. It means that in a literal sense, in front of us, in German it's called Vorhandenheit, that is in front of our hands, that causes disruptions in our daily workings. That usually happens when equipment is broken or when it's not functional anymore. So although Heidegger is not really doing like making moral or value judgments about which one's better, it kind of implies that good equipment is that which allows to be wielded without much interference. Prefectus Aristotle of the Official Logisticarium also has some ideas about what makes a good tool and what makes a good human. He basically says that the purpose of a good human being, in the sense of not morally good, but like what a good human being is, a human being that can act well in the sense of eupraxia in order to have a good life, eudaimonia. Eudaimonia basically means a good life in the sense of the whole of good actions, and a good action is an action that leads to an end in a way that brings forth the end the best, basically. Like a good builder would mean, being a good builder would mean building a good house, which brings us to the purpose of a good tool or a good house. It means that it's easily employed and functions well in order to enable a good action. So a good house is then a good house if it allows you to live well in it, basically, and a good builder is a good builder if he builds good houses that allow people to live well in it. Okay, so these are the two purposes, basically, that Christians have in their lives. They face a very complex existential predicament. On the one hand, they must remain human and retain their ontological freedom and subjectivity in a way, because it allows them to have a sense of internal purpose and fulfill their duties well. Soldiers, is that right? To fulfill duties well, or is it fulfill duties good? No, it's well. Well, yeah. But at the same time, they must rid themselves of their humanity to allow themselves to be wielded as good instruments by the emperor. So they have the internal purpose as a meaningful aim or telos of their own existence, and they have an external purpose as a good functioning, basically, of an instrument of the user, which is like the captains, sergeants, the emperor itself, or themselves. But, in the novel Homer's Rising, this predicament is comes to show basically when Gabriel Loken talks to Colonel Sindeman after the Battle of Eleanor, And he has these thoughts and he mentions, couldn't we have won the planet or the battle in a different way? Was it necessary to kill all these people or to do it in the way we did? And Kirill Zinnemann basically says, you're a weapon, Gabriel. An example of the finest instrument of destruction mankind has ever known. There must be no place inside you for doubt or question. You're right. Weapons should not think. They should only allow themselves to be employed. For the decision to use them is not theirs to make. That decision must be made with great and terrible care and with ethical judge by the primarchs and the commanders. So we are post like pre-heresy, but not quite. Yeah, if you get it. What struck me when I read this is that Kirill Zinnemann basically appeals to Gabriel's humanity, to his sense of purpose, and to his freedom and to his objectivity, and telling him, do not allow yourself to be like, he appeals to what makes him human in order to tell him to not allow himself to be human and to be wielded as a weapon. I also like the thought that it's somewhat different in the case of transhumans, like in the primarchs, because they are born for that purpose. They're made for killing and fighting, but they're also still humans. And one could say that the whole fourth heresy is basically the part of it, part of our aspect of it, are like the implications or like the effects of an existential crisis that they basically face. They are there to fight wars and to liberate the Imperium, but the end of like to the end of not there not being any war where they ultimately wouldn't matter anymore. Yeah. Anyway, existentially, Astartes remain thus in a constant state of transcending their own humanity towards artificiality, without being able to fully realize this transcending. Because this transcending is exactly what makes them human. And despite what the Guardian says, Astartes cannot become robots. It's not possible. Astartes not only fight an external battle with the Xenos, the heretic and the demon, they also fight an internal battle with themselves. A battle within, always on the brink, always in the middle. What about us? I specifically didn't put any slides there because I want you to basically look at yourselves a bit. Are we not all in this kind of predicament? Like, we're born in a world that didn't ask for us. We have a certain plasticity, we have body, genes, whatever. But we also, and the fact that we are humans means that we have to choose, we have to act, we have to make sense of the world in a way. On the other side, we are like this clone with purpose or with meaning from the outside. Like, we're men, like we have the role of men, the role of women, everything between and beyond, and people try to fit these roles or break out of these roles with working class children, or we live we are born in academic households, in a rich country, in a poor country, whatever you name it. We also kind of face the same predicament. So how would we deal with this ambiguity? According to Shield Captain Simone de Beauvoir of the Atlantic Custodies, we first have to recognize this ambiguity. I have to take a picture of it. Yeah. In her Ethics of Ambiguity, she tried to pinpoint exactly what this is, and I read it because it's so amazing how she wrote it. And I can only tell you that read the Ethics of Ambiguity. It's really cool. It's really textless. So she says, and it's also pretty grimdark the way she writes. Like, man asserts himself as pure internality against which no external power can take hold. And he also experiences himself as a thing crushed by the dark weight of other things. At every moment he can grasp the non-temporal truth of his existence. But between the past, which no longer is, and the future, which is not yet, this moment when he exists is nothing. This privilege, which he alone possesses, of being a sovereign and unique subject amidst the universe of objects, is what he shares with all his fellow men. In turn, an object for others, in order to, there's a lot of hard. In turn, an object for others, he is nothing more than an individual in the collectivity on which he depends. How Siegler and Beauvoir deals with this predicament is that she, in the Ethics of Ambiguity, proposes certain ways of, or certain attitudes that we can employ towards our own existence and the existence of others. the different attitudes, I want to focus on the one that she deems most able to recognize and uphold one's own freedom and one's determined effect that we are determined. She calls this attitude the lover. The lover describes her tears and tortures, but she asserts that she loves this unhappiness. It is also a source of delight for her. She likes the other to appear as another through her separation. It pleases her to exalt by her very suffering that strange existence which she chooses to set up. Oh my God, of course. I should notice that by heart. Chooses to set up as worthy of any sacrifice. So the lover is basically someone who finds or tries to find a purpose that is so dear to her or to themselves that they are willing to sacrifice themselves, not because they want something to be like they want it to be, but they want something to be like whatever that thing is wants itself to be. So like a very elementary or elemental relation like this could be to our children or to our friends. I think most people like our friends not because they are how we want them to be, but because we like how they want themselves to be. And we try to foster or care for them and make them bloom, basically. And this is the energy that the Beauvoir basically proposes. If we think about Sartre and his chaos counterpart, Lord Armitage Sartre of the Antiquism, we can also deal with this attitude in a different way, in a very fundamental way. We just take serious and reclaim whatever makes us human by realizing the ontological freedom and subjectivity, and in choosing our own purpose. Just like choose whatever the purpose is, even if this means damnation. It could be argued, or like I will argue, it could be everything could be argued, but I argue that that one reason why the English powers are so attractive for space marines is because it allows them to make a choice for themselves and realize whatever they authentically feel like being in a way. I mentioned this in the other panel. For someone who's very bloodthirsty, but who's restricted in his bloodthirst by like the Codex Imperialis, it could be an authentic choice to become a corn worshipper, basically, because it allows them to just be who they are or how they feel they are, and make this choice, even if it means damnation. The third way of dealing with ambiguity would be in the Pretty Wolf of the Supreme Vanguard deals with it. Pretty Wolf is the title of another name for chapter master. This is Supreme Vanguard. He basically says that we have to accept the fact that the battle within us is what makes us who we are. It's just that's who we are. We cannot. There's no way of solving the tension that we are or exist as. We just have to accept that this is our battle. Here he proposes an attitude of revolt, which means to face the absurdity of existence with determination. One way of doing this is also a certain attitude to employ a certain attitude to say, to just conclude all is well. We conclude that all is well, that this is our existence, and we have to deal with it. This makes fate a human matter, which must be done on the long way. Basically. In Camus' words, slightly after 240K even worse, we can just say all studies, Sal and Choi, is contained in the fact that their fate is their matter. Their fate belongs to them. Their matter is their thing. There's no order without chaos, and it is essential to know the night. Convinced of the wholly human origin of all that is human, blind men eager to see that the night has no end, they are still on the go. Who leave their studies at the battle barges. One always finds one's burden again, but the Astarte teach us the higher fidelity that negates the gods and raised rocks. They too conclude that all is well. A galaxy wrecked with eternal war allows the Astartes to do what they were prepared to do. They push back the Xenos, the heretic, the demon, only to be pushed back themselves and fight again. Each atom, the materium, each wave of the materium is in itself forms a world. The struggle itself to what the fringes is enough to fill their two hearts. In the current darkness of the pop future, one must imagine a space being had.
Bravo.